Hello and Assalamu alaikum everyone. Hello and Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today I am a representative of Umeed and I will be talking about how you can build an effective resume. This session is going to cover that how if you want to have a resume that can land you to a job, a work opportunity, or how you can just improve your currently built resume. What are the basic essentials that you need to have for a resume? What are the things that you need to avoid for a resume? And how you can ensure that the resume is up to the mark, it's following the market trends, and it is what is required by the employer. Hello, and so what is actually a resume? Had it been an interactive session, I would have loved asking this question from you people and then building on what you're saying. But since this is a virtual one, so I am basically telling you what a resume is. A resume is basically a snapshot of who you are. So a resume is basically a one-page document that is going to tell you about who is this person, how is this person different from the other candidates, what has this person done, what is the credentials that this person has, what are the skills that this person has, how has this person used those skills. So these are the details that the employer or the recruiter is looking for in a resume. These are the details that are going to help me evaluate that whether you are the right fit for the job or whether you are not. So let's say we have a resume that mentions some past experience of teaching. Let's say it mentions something related to numbers. So I can tell by looking at the resume should be good enough that if I look at it, I can tell, okay, this person is suitable for this role. Why? Because this person has these XY skills and these skills are the ones that are needed in my job. So a resume basically is a brief history of your educational and professional experience, to be put very, very broadly. And then it narrows down to the work you have done, the projects you have taken, but it's basically very brief. So you have to stay to the point. You have to make sure that your content is very crisp, very clear. Clarity is must in a resume, otherwise you cannot take it forward. And also always keep this thing in mind that whenever you are building a resume, there are many other applicants that are also applying for the same role, for the same work opportunity. So you need to make sure that whatever your resume has, it is actually accurate, because you need to demonstrate it later at some point in time in your life if you get shortlisted or not, and even in an interview process you will be judged upon it. The other thing is you need to make sure that it has the right details. When I say right details, I mean the details that are required on the job. It should not necessarily cover everything under the umbrella. Rather, it should be something that is actually what your recruiter, what your employer is looking for. Therefore, you need to make sure that your resume is up to the mark with the right catchy details that it needs to have. So what are the must-haves which must be present in your resume? Starting off, your resume should be visually appealing. When I say visually appealing, it means that if I have a one-page document in my hand, which is your resume, within 10 to 15 seconds, I should be able to skim through it. When I say skim through it, I should be able to read your headings very clearly. I should be able to read your main points very, very clearly. If there's something in specific, if there's something that you want your reader to know about you within the first 10 seconds, that should be placed in a way and positioned in a way, written in a way, matlab, in a sense ke the formatting should be in a way that I can just pick up your resume and I can just direct myself on that point automatically. So let's say you have some skill written, which is your compelling skill. You have maybe you have written it in a bold font size. So these are some of the things that you need to be very, very careful about. You need to make sure that your margins on all sides are good enough, like they should be consistent. Your bullets should be same throughout. It shouldn't be that for one header you're using a different bullet, for the other one you're using a different bullet. You need to use the same bullet throughout your resume. The bullet style. Your font should be same. Your font should be legible. Your font size should be same. Style title definitely should be same. Other than that, your resume should be very clearly articulated. It should have clear headings. The heading should be clearly readable. It shouldn't be a cramped stuff. It shouldn't have a lot of text in it. When I say a lot of text, the problem with that is that I'm just seeing a lot of narratives and descriptions, and I'm not just able to read through them quickly. So it's better to have lesser details but right details, crisp details, accurate details, to the point details, and making sure that the formatting and everything is good enough for your reader to facilitate it. Basically, your reader is going to be your recruiter, your employer, the person who is going to hire you, the person who is going to give you the work opportunity, and that person should be facilitated as much as you can. So you need to make sure that you are providing him something which is easy for him to read, which is easy for him to understand and absorb. Now, this is not the job of the person who is supposed to hire you to find out details in your resume. You have to present them in a way that they automatically come to the reader in the right manner. So it's very important to make sure there are no language or grammar errors on your resume. So considering that obviously we build resumes in English, so you need to make sure that your resume has the correct language and grammatical kind of things. Other than that, the formatting, I just can't stress enough on this that the formatting should be consistent. If you're following a particular font size in your heading, you need to follow the same font style in your bullet points. You can vary the size, but then you need to make sure कि सारी headings का size is the same and सारे bullets का size is the same. So there should be consistency. Other than that, you should follow descending timeline order. When I say this, so what I mean is that, for instance, if you're writing about your education, so you need to start off with your most recent education. Let's say you're in school right now, you're in high school, so you're in grade 12th. So grade 12th would I believe it would mean the FSC Part 2, or for A-level students it would mean A1. So if you are an A-level student or if you are an FSC student, you need to mention your FSC or A-level first, then you move to your metric or your O-level, and then you go in a below descending order. So basically we start off with metric usually. Metric is the lowest level of education that you can put up. उससे पीछे you don't go in your school years, और उससे but you start with the descending order in a sense कि जो सबसे latest वाली होती है, you put it on top, then the second latest one, and then falling backwards. So if a university student is writing it, he needs to mention his university degree at top. Matlab, under the education heading, you would start off with your university degree, then you mention your FSC or A-level degree, and then you mention your O-level or metric degree. So, and this timeline order is the same that you need to follow for other headers. Other headers would include your professional experience. I'm going to show a sample by the end of it. So for each heading, you have to make sure that the timeline order is followed in a descending order. Descending means from latest to going backwards. Other than that, another must-have that you must use is using action words, using active language rather than passive language. So when I say action words, basically when you have to build your resume, you have to write something like this. For instance, if you worked on a freelancing project, let's say you did some content writing. So rather than just writing that I wrote content on, let's say social media for a company XYZ, you're going to use active language in a way that you are going to say I created or I developed or I generated user-friendly content for XYZ company. So this created, developed, generated, these three words that I've used, you can use any of these. These are action words. So you have to use action words. Search on Google what action words are. You can find some specific action words regarding resume as well, and you have to make sure that you use them in your bullet points. Other than that, another important point is aligning your resume with the job description. So whichever work opportunity or whichever job you're applying for, you have to make sure that your resume is following the requirements of that job description. So let's say you watch an ad online or you watch any vacancy online, you read in a newspaper about a certain work opportunity. So now you have to find out that what are the type of applicants they are looking for, what are the type of candidates they are looking for, what are the type of work they are expected to do. And throughout your resume, you have to demonstrate on those skills, on those experiences, on those potential abilities that you have, and you have to basically show the recruiter, see, this is what you want, this is what I have, and we are the right fit. So let's say if you have searched for a teaching job, you can write anything. If you have any peer tutoring experience, if you have any coaching experience, so you have to mention that. In your skills section, you are going to talk about these skills like teaching, communication. So basically, you have to make sure that whatever your job description is, your resume is going to resonate with that. When I say resonate, it means that you have to make sure that your resume has the right skills which are mentioned in the job description. So what Now, talking about the part that which your resume should definitely avoid. Just can't stress this enough. You need to make sure that these are some of the traps that you don't want to fall into. You want to make sure that you don't have any of these on your resume. Firstly, using contractions and abbreviations. So you do not use any short form words like can't, doesn't, couldn't, haven't. These are must not haves. These are words that you shouldn't have on your resume. You should not use any contraction, any abbreviation. Okay, because your recruiter needs to have something in a formal way, in a formal document. This is informal language. Using contractions and abbreviations is informal, so you're going to avoid it at any cost. Other than that, having long, lengthy descriptions. This is not advisable at all. The time of your recruiter is very valuable. He has a lot of resumes other than yours to read as well. So you would probably like to keep it crisp and to the point rather than giving very long, lengthy discussions. So what happens when we have long, lengthy discussions, we have to form in our mind, okay, this is what the person has told me. This is what was the main point. So instead of the recruiter finding out what your main point was, how about you present only the main point to your recruiter? Okay. So just mention the very to the point details on your resume. Just mention very crisp details on your resume. Make sure that you don't have very long narratives or lengthy descriptions that are not advisable at all. Other than that, do not try to be over smart. Do not try to exaggerate stuff. Do not try to give very flowery and difficult to comprehend language on your resume. That is not going to help you at all. So you need to make sure that your language on your resume is very professional, formal, and easy to understand. You do not need to use very difficult words. You do not need to exaggerate stuff. Write about things that you know. Write about things that you can actually demonstrate. That you, if you are asked to perform on those abilities, you can. Do not try to make up stuff. This is going to be a big trap for you. Oh, and you would definitely like to avoid it. Other than that, we do not give list of references on your resume. Okay? If they are needed, you can provide them to the recruiter whenever asked, but you do not write references on your resume. That may have been something that was followed in the past, but now it's an old thing. It's history. We don't do that anymore. Other than that, since you are students, so your resume should ideally be one pager only. It shouldn't exceed the one pager limit. Okay? You can reduce your font size, you can reduce the margins on the sides, but make sure all the content that you have it fits on one page. One page is more than enough for a starter. For a starter who is just going to enter professional life, or for a student who is trying to look for work opportunities. So make sure that your resume is at max one pager. Okay. One pager means one page, one side only. That doesn't mean two pages, two sides of one page. One page, one side. Now, talking about the And here comes the much awaited part. This is how a sample resume may look like. So starting off at the top, you have your name written. In the very next line, you mention your contact details, which are your address, your email, and your phone number. So this is like basic stuff. Now coming on to the objective. The objective is a statement that tells that what is it that you can do on this job. So how do you write an objective statement? You basically read up the job description. You find out what your recruiter employer is looking for. Then you find out that what is actually something on this job which the recruiter actually wants to get done. This is the pain point of the recruiter, and you have to address that pain point, because when you're going to write your resume in this way, in this format, with this level of research, the chances of you getting the job automatically go up. So you basically have to search over here that how are you going to find out about this job, how are you going to no, not how are you going to find out about this job, you're going to tell how is your recruiter going to judge you, what is it that your recruiter definitely wants, what is it that your recruiter is struggling with, what is it that asked your recruiter or made your recruiter post this job, what is the work that needs to be done. So you're going to get on this, you're going to research on this, then you're going to frame your objective statement. It should be just a one or two liner, that my objective, you can, under your objective heading you can write, for instance, if it's a teaching job, you can write to ensure good teaching practices. Yeah, you can say something like to demonstrate good teaching practices in high school environment with active learning techniques such as XYZ. So with this thing, you have to make sure that you address what your recruiter wants. So the sample statement that I just gave you, it mentioned active teaching techniques. Now, active teaching techniques is something which your recruiter might be interested in if it's a teaching job. So this is something that is going to vary from job to job. I just gave a very hypothetical kind of an example. So you have to make sure that whatever your job description is, you research it, what is the actual work that needs to be done, what is the pain point, and then you frame your objective statement. It should be framed very, very carefully. Next follows your education. Within education, like I talked about earlier, you have to mention your most recent degree or your level of education, then you go backwards. The way to write education is you can start off with your name of the degree. In the next line, you can write the name of the institute. In the third line, you can write the result. And you also have to mention your dates or years so that you can mention on the very right hand side. Next follows the experience. Within experience as well, you have to follow the same order, the most recent one, then going backwards. And in this experience, you also have to write bullets, like for instance, if you're writing about some internship, so you also have to write what you did on that internship. So the formatting can be, in the first line you mention the name of the company and you mention your designation and then the timeline, and in the next bullet you're going to talk about what you did, and here you're going to use action words, the ones that I talked about earlier. Other than that, moving on, you write about your awards and honors, any merit scholarships, any sports awards, anything that you have had in your educational or your professional career. Next, you write about your extracurricular activities. Is maybe you have to make sure that you start off from the most latest one and then you go backwards. You have to use action words. Basically mentioning basically 2 to 3 is more than enough. 2 to 3 extracurricular activities. Make sure that whatever you have on your resume is meaningful. It has an impact. It's not that you participated in something. No, if you participated in, you have to show that how your participation was worth it. What is it that you learned from it? What is it that you achieved from it? Is there anything that helped you change yourself? So you have to mention all the process, how that experience basically contributed to who you are. It may just be a participation, but you have to make sure that why was that participation so important for you? How did you learn from it? How did it change you? Next, you write about your interest. You can also mention your skills. In your skills, you can write job specific skills. For instance, it could be teaching, it could be communication, it could be teamwork, it could be maths, it could be anything that you're good at. Okay. And lastly, you mention your interest. Your interest could be, it could be sports, it could be media, anything on a lighter note that tells what are you other than an education or a professional person. Okay. And this is a very like brief kind of a summary. So with this, I would like to close, and for any questions you can reach out to team Umid and they will be happy to answer you. Thank you.